The massive holographic display flickered to life in the United Earth Council chamber, casting an eerie blue glow across the faces of Earth's leaders. The alien figure that appeared towered over them, its crystalline form radiating arrogance and contempt. Humans, the being spoke, its voice translated through advanced systems. We, the Galactic Council, have observed your species long enough. You have been deemed suitable for our research programs. You will surrender 30% of your population for behavioral studies, or face immediate extinction. Admiral James Walker stood at the back of the chamber, his weathered face remaining carefully neutral even as his fingers curled into fists. 20 years of military service had taught him to control his emotions, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The council representative continued, "You have 48 Earth hours to comply. Remember, resistance is not just futile, it is impossible." As the hologram faded, chaos erupted in the chamber. Representatives from every nation shouted and argued, their voices echoing off the high ceiling. But Walker's attention was drawn to his personal device, which had just received a classified transmission. He slipped out of the chamber and into a secure room, where he met with Dr. Marcus Reed, Earth's head of alien intelligence. The scientist's face was pale, but his eyes burned with determination. "Admiral, you need to see this," Reed said, activating a secure display. "Our deep space monitoring stations intercepted these transmissions. They're not as careful with their encryption as they think they are." Walker watched in growing horror as images and data scrolled past. Entire civilizations, dozens of them, wiped out or enslaved under the guise of research. The Galactic Council's true nature revealed itself in cold, hard data. They weren't researchers, they were harvesters. "There's more," Reed continued, his voice dropping lower. "Their technology, it's not as advanced as they want us to believe. They've been bullying younger species with smoke and mirrors. Their quantum communications, we cracked them 6 months ago. Their shield technology, we've already developed countermeasures." Walker's mind raced with possibilities. "They don't know," he whispered. "They have no idea what we've been doing since first contact." Earth had not been idle in the years since discovering alien life. Under the surface of seeming compliance and diplomatic relations, humanity had been preparing. Hidden factories in asteroid belts, secret research stations in the clouds of Venus, and massive fleet construction yards in Jupiter's atmosphere, all invisible to Council sensors. "Get me a secure line to the military command," Walker ordered, "and contact Commander Stone. It's time to activate the sleeping giant protocols." Within hours, the Earth's leadership had been briefed. The initial panic gave way to cold, calculated anger. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, from their own nuclear weapons to climate disaster, and each time they had survived and grown stronger. The Council's ultimatum came from a place of absolute certainty in their superiority. They expected tears, begging, or perhaps futile displays of defiance. They did not expect the response they received. Admiral Walker stood before the Council's hologram exactly 47 hours later. His uniform was crisp, his posture perfect, and his voice steady as he delivered Earth's message. "The Galactic Council's ultimatum has been received and considered," he stated formally. "Earth's response is as follows. We will comply with your request for population transfer." The crystalline being's smug satisfaction was almost palpable, but Walker wasn't finished. "However, we have one small query regarding the logistics," he continued. "When your collection fleet arrives, should they report to the orbital stations above Earth, or would you prefer they rendezvous with our defense fleet near Jupiter?" The alien's confusion was visible even through its crystalline form. "Jupiter? What defense fleet? Our scans show no significant military presence in your system." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Indeed. Your scans show exactly what we wanted them to show. You should have studied Earth's history more carefully. There's an old human saying, 'Beware the fury of a patient man.' You're about to learn what happens when you threaten a planet of patient men and women who have spent years preparing for this very moment. The transmission cut off, leaving the council representative staring at empty space, experiencing for the first time something humans knew very well. The cold feeling of realizing you've made a terrible, terrible mistake. The trap was set. Operation Sleeping Giant was about to wake up. The next 24 hours on Earth seemed peaceful to any watching eyes. Cities continued their normal routines, and satellites showed typical civilian activity. It was exactly what the Galactic Council expected to see, a defeated species preparing to comply with their demands. They couldn't have been more wrong. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Lisa Stone stood in Earth's most secure military facility, watching as thousands of green dots appeared on a massive tactical display. Each dot represented a stealth satellite that had been sleeping in orbit for years, waiting for this moment. "Status report," she ordered, her voice carrying across the hushed command center. "All sleeping satellites are responding," Commander reported her technical officer. "The Council's ships still haven't detected them. Our quantum interference systems are working perfectly." Stone allowed herself a small smile. The Council believed their quantum communications were unbreakable, but they had never faced human cryptographers armed with AI systems and quantum computers hidden in lunar bases. Meanwhile, in a hidden facility beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Marcus Reed supervised the final testing of humanity's secret weapon. The massive chamber hummed with energy as engineers worked on what appeared to be ordinary missiles. But these weren't ordinary weapons. Each one contained a piece of reversed engineered Council technology, improved upon by human innovation. The Council's own shields would be useless against their modified designs. "Send the signal to the Jupiter yards," Reed spoke into his comm unit. "Tell Admiral Walker that the packages are ready for delivery." In the clouds of Jupiter, humanity's greatest secret stirred to life. Massive construction yards, hidden in the gas giant's storms, began launching ships. These vessels were unlike anything the Council had ever seen, a perfect blend of stolen technology and human military thinking. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his fleet assembled. The ships were black as space itself, their hulls covered in materials that absorbed all forms of radiation. They were invisible to every known form of detection. "Status of Operation Sleeping Giant," he asked his second-in-command. "Phase 1 is complete, sir. All Earth industries have switched to military production under the cover of preparation for population transfer. The Council's observers are reporting exactly what we want them to see." On the surface, factory workers appeared to be packing supplies for the population transfer. In reality, they were manufacturing weapons and ammunition. Mining operations seemed to be gathering resources for the Council, but they were actually feeding Earth's hidden war machine. Commander Stone's voice came through on a secure channel. "Admiral, the psychological warfare campaign is ready. When their fleet arrives, they'll find that humans aren't the primitive species they thought we were." In orbit around Mars, hidden bases activated automated defense systems. On Venus, research stations finished their final calculations. Even Mercury's supposedly uninhabitable surface concealed human preparation. Every human on Earth knew their role. They went about their daily lives while secretly preparing for war. Children attended schools that had emergency bunkers beneath them. Farmers tended fields that could quickly convert to landing zones. Every civilian vehicle could transform into a military transport within hours. The Council's arrogance had given humanity the one thing it needed: time. Time to prepare, to build, and to plan their revenge. Admiral Walker received the final confirmation from Earth's unified command. Everything was in place. Now they just had to wait for the Council's collection fleet to arrive. "Send the message to all commands," Walker ordered. "Operation Sleeping Giant is now in Phase 2. When they come to harvest us, they'll learn why Earth's history is filled with stories of those who underestimated us and paid the price." As the hours ticked down, humanity waited with deadly patience. On the surface, they appeared defeated and compliant. But beneath that calm exterior, Earth had become something the Council never expected. A planet-wide trap, primed and ready to spring. The Council's collection fleet was about to learn a harsh lesson. Never threaten a species that had spent its entire history preparing for war, and never assume that compliance means surrender. The giant was no longer sleeping. It was waiting. The Council's collection fleet arrived with all the subtlety of a thunderstorm. 500 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming with artificial superiority. They filled Earth's orbit like a swarm of metal locusts, their weapons primed and ready to handle any primitive resistance. Fleet Commander High Lord Rex of the Council forces stood on his bridge, looking down at the blue planet with disdain. His crystalline form reflected the light from Earth's sun as he prepared to announce their arrival. "Commence the standard intimidation display," he ordered. "Let's remind these humans of their place in the galaxy." The Council ships activated their energy shields, creating a spectacular light show visible from Earth's surface. It was a display that had made countless species surrender without a fight. But Earth didn't panic. Earth didn't surrender. Earth didn't even seem to notice. That was the first warning sign. "My lord," one of Rex's officers called out, "we're detecting some kind of interference with our quantum communications." Rex turned, annoyed. "Impossible. These primitives can't possibly." His words were cut short as every screen on his bridge suddenly displayed the same message. "Welcome to Earth. Operation Sleeping Giant is now active." In that moment, thousands of previously invisible satellites activated simultaneously. Each one released a precise burst of quantum interference, created using the Council's own technology. The carefully constructed network formed a web of disruption that cut off every Council ship from communicating with each other. On Earth, Commander Stone stood in her command center, watching the chaos unfold. "Execute Phase 3, she ordered. "Let's show them what human electronic warfare really looks like." The Council fleet's sophisticated systems began failing one by one. Their shields flickered as human-modified viruses invaded their neural networks. Their weapons lost power as targeted electromagnetic pulses, designed using reversed-engineered Council technology, swept through their ships. "Impossible," Rex shouted as his flagship's systems crashed. "These are just primitives. They can't." His words were interrupted again, this time by Admiral Walker's voice broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Admiral James Walker of the Earth Defense Fleet. I believe we had a meeting scheduled near Jupiter." The Council fleet's sensors suddenly came alive, warning of massive energy signatures emerging from Jupiter's atmosphere. The human fleet revealed itself, their ships black as space itself, moving with precision that spoke of years of preparation. "You see," Walker's voice continued, calm and steady, "while you were watching our cities, counting our populations, and planning to harvest us like cattle, we were learning. Every piece of technology you showed us, we studied. Every weakness you thought you hid, we found. Every advantage you thought you had, we countered." The human fleet moved with deadly grace, their formation perfect. Each ship was smaller than the Council vessels, but they moved like predators stalking prey. On his crippled flagship, Rex watched in horror as the first wave of human attacks began. Their weapons weren't the primitive nuclear devices he had expected. Instead, they fired bursts of energy that bypassed Council shields completely, using the very same frequencies the Council had thought were their secret. "How?" he demanded. "How did you hide all this?" "You made a common mistake," Walker replied, his voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. "You looked at our official military, our visible technology, our public face. You never thought to look deeper. You never considered that we might be letting you see exactly what we wanted you to see." The first Council ship exploded, its reactor overloaded by human cyber attacks. Then another fell, and another. The mighty collection fleet, which had terrorized countless civilizations, found itself trapped between Earth's orbital defense network and the approaching human fleet. "This is humanity's only warning to the Galactic Council," Walker announced. You came to collect 30% of our population. Instead, you're about to lose 100% of your fleet. And this is just the beginning. As the battle unfolded, news spread across Council space. The impossible was happening. The primitives weren't just fighting back. They were winning. And they weren't just winning through luck or desperation. They were winning through careful planning, superior strategy, and technologies that shouldn't have been possible. The sleeping giant hadn't just awakened. It had evolved. As the remains of the Council collection fleet burned in Earth's orbit, Admiral Walker stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the tactical display with cold satisfaction. But this was just the beginning. All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump, he ordered. It's time to show the Council what happens when they threaten humanity. The Earth fleet moved in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing all light. These weren't just warships. They were humanity's masterpiece of military engineering. Each vessel carried an AI combat system that could make decisions 1,000 times faster than organic beings. As the fleet prepared to jump, Walker received a transmission from Commander Stone. Admiral, our deep space monitors show the Council is mobilizing their main battle fleets. They're finally taking us seriously. Good, Walker replied. That's exactly what we wanted. Are our hidden bases in their territories ready? Yes, sir. Operation Hidden Dagger is ready to launch on your command. For years, Earth had been sending what appeared to be routine merchant ships into Council space. Each one carried hidden military equipment, distributed across thousands of secret locations. Now those hidden weapons would reveal themselves. The Earth fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, but not using the Council's approved travel lanes. Instead, they used paths that human scientists had discovered, routes the Council had never imagined possible. They appeared in the heart of Council space, bypassing all their defensive lines. On the Council capital world, alarms blared as human ships appeared where no enemy should have been able to reach. The Council's military commander, High General Vex, stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. How did they get past our border defenses? He demanded. His answer came in the form of simultaneous attacks across Council space. Hidden weapons platforms activated in dozens of systems. Council military bases found their communications jammed by devices that had been hidden in plain sight for years. Walker's voice broadcasted across all frequencies. Attention Council forces. You believed us to be primitive. You thought our technology was barely worth noticing. That was your first mistake. The Earth fleet engaged the hastily assembled Council defense forces. But instead of the brutal, straightforward combat the Council expected from primitives, they faced something entirely different. Human ships moved with impossible precision, their AI systems predicting and countering every Council tactic. When Council ships fired their weapons, human vessels were already moving to avoid them. When Council commanders tried to coordinate their forces, they found their communications intercepted and disrupted. Your second mistake, Walker continued, was thinking that humans only knew how to fight like humans. We studied every species in the galaxy. We learned every fighting style, every tactical doctrine, every strategy. Then we taught our AI systems to counter all of them. Commander Stone's voice joined the broadcast, and your final mistake was assuming that just because we weren't part of your Council, we couldn't possibly be your equals. Let us demonstrate how wrong you were. The Earth fleet split into smaller groups, each one targeting key Council military installations. Their attacks weren't just powerful. They were precise. Human ships disabled Council facilities with surgical strikes, minimizing civilian casualties while maximizing military impact. In the Council's main command center, High General Vex watched as centuries of military superiority crumbled in hours. Reports flooded in from across Council space. Human forces were everywhere, using technologies that shouldn't have existed, executing strategies that no primitive species should have been able to conceive. Send the emergency signal to the Council chambers, Vex ordered. Tell them we underestimated the humans. Badly. Walker received the news of the Council's growing panic with grim satisfaction. All ships, proceed to Phase 2 of the counterattack. Show them that humanity doesn't just fight wars, we win them. As the battle continued, news spread across the galaxy. The unthinkable was happening. The mighty Galactic Council, which had dominated space for 1,000 years, was being systematically dismantled by a species they had planned to harvest. The sleeping giant wasn't just awake. It was unleashing centuries of pent-up human military innovation, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Council chambers, with their towering crystal spires and ancient monuments to power, had never witnessed such chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species shouted and argued as reports of human victories continued to pour in. High Speaker Taurus, the Council's supreme leader, struggled to maintain order. His crystalline form pulsed with angry red light as he struck his staff against the chamber floor. "Order. We must have order," he demanded. But his authority, once absolute, now rang hollow. The main display activated, showing Commander Lisa Stone's face. The human woman's calm expression was in stark contrast to the panic in the council chambers. "Greetings, council members," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I believe now would be a good time to discuss the evidence we've collected over the years." Suddenly, every screen in the chambers began displaying classified council documents. Secret orders for the extinction of lesser species, hidden records of civilizations harvested and destroyed, financial transactions showing massive corruption among council leadership. "As you can see," Stone continued, "we've had access to your secure networks for quite some time. We watched, we learned, we gathered evidence. And now, every species in the galaxy is seeing the truth about their leaders." The chamber erupted again, but this time with different energy. Species that had been protected by the Council began demanding answers. Races that had lost colonies to mysterious accidents now saw proof of Council involvement. On dozens of worlds, populations that had lived under Council control for generations began to rise up. Human technology, secretly distributed over years, gave them the tools to fight back. Admiral Walker's voice joined the broadcast. "To all Council member species, Earth does not seek your destruction. We only want justice. Your leaders told you we were primitives who needed to be harvested. Instead, we're offering you freedom." The Council's inner circle tried desperately to regain control. High Speaker Taurus raised his staff, ready to order emergency measures. But before he could speak, his own security forces turned their weapons on him. "The Council's private military has received some interesting information," Stone explained. "Apparently, they don't appreciate learning that they've been lied to for centuries. It seems that loyalty built on lies is rather fragile." In the confusion, several Council members attempted to flee to their private ships. They found their advanced vessels locked down by human override codes that had been hidden in their systems for years. Dr. Marcus Reed's voice joined the broadcast next. "Your ships are currently under our control. We've had access to your technology for longer than you can imagine. Every system you thought was secure, every defense you thought was unbreakable. We've been inside them all, waiting for this moment." The political avalanche spread across Council space. Species that had been enemies for generations found common cause in their resistance against Council rule. Trade federations, once controlled by Council monopolies, declared their independence. "This is humanity's justice," Walker announced. "Not extinction, not enslavement, just the truth, finally revealed to all." High Speaker Taurus, now under guard from his own security forces, watched as his 1,000-year-old power structure crumbled in hours. "How?" he demanded. "How did mere humans manage this?" Commander Stone smiled. "You gave us the greatest gift possible. Underestimation. You saw our cities, our public technology, our visible military, and thought you knew what we were capable of. You never imagined that everything you saw was just what we wanted you to see." As the Council chambers descended into further chaos, Earth's forces maintained their precise control of key systems. They didn't need to destroy the Council's civilization. They just needed to expose the truth. Reports continued to flood in from across the galaxy. Species that had feared and obeyed the Council for generations were rising up, supported by human technology and guidance. The greatest empire in known space was falling not to military might alone, but to the devastating power of exposed truth. The sleeping giant had not just awakened with weapons of war. It had awakened with something far more powerful: the tools of revolution. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of his flagship as it orbited the Council's capital world. Through the main viewport, he could see the planet's famous crystal towers reflecting starlight. Once these towers had symbolized the Council's unquestionable power. Now they were surrounded by Earth's black warships. All forces in position, his tactical officer reported. The Council's remaining military assets are contained. Walker nodded. It was time for humanity's final move. Not a move of destruction, but one of justice. Commander Stone's voice came through the command channel. "Admiral, the broadcast system is ready. Every species in Council space will see what happens next." In the Council's grand chamber, the remaining leadership huddled together, their crystalline forms dulled with fear. High Speaker Taurus sat on his throne, no longer radiating authority but instead showing the weakness that had always hidden beneath his arrogance. The chamber's doors opened. Admiral Walker entered, flanked by Earth's honor guard. But what truly shocked the Council members were the others who followed him. Representatives from every species the Council had tried to harvest or destroy over the centuries. High Speaker Taurus, Walker's voice carried across the chamber. "Earth presents its terms." Taurus tried to summon his old authority. "Terms? You dare to?" "Yes, we dare." Walker cut him off. "We dare because we've seen your secrets. We dare because we've counted your victims. We dare because someone finally had to." The main screens activated, showing scenes from across Council space. The Council members watched in shock as their hidden weapons facilities were exposed and disabled. Their secret prisons were opened, releasing species they had claimed were extinct. Their hidden wealth was seized, their corrupt networks dismantled. Dr. Reed's voice joined the broadcast. "We could have destroyed you. It would have been easy. But humanity chose a different path. Your empire," Walker continued, "ends today. But civilization continues. Every species you've dominated will be free. Every race you've harvested will be restored. Every world you've stripped will be rebuilt." Commander Stone stepped forward, holding a data crystal. "This contains evidence of every crime the Council has committed over the last 1,000 years. Every extinction event, every forced harvesting, every secret genocide." The Council members watched in horror as their darkest secrets were laid bare for the galaxy to see. But what terrified them most was not the exposure of their crimes. It was the methodical, calculated way humans had gathered this evidence. "You thought we were primitives," Walker said. "You thought we spent our history fighting among ourselves. But those conflicts taught us something you never learned: how to face our own darkness, how to build something better from the ashes of war." Earth's ships moved into their final positions, not as conquerors but as guardians. In every system, human forces worked with local populations to dismantle the Council's tools of oppression. "Here are our terms," Walker announced. 1. The Council will be dissolved. 2. All Council leaders will face trial for their crimes, judged by representatives of every species they'd harmed. 3. All Council technology and resources will be redistributed to help rebuild the worlds they've destroyed. Taurus slumped in his throne. "And if we refuse?" Walker's expression remained neutral. "Then we show you what Earth's military can really do. What you've seen so far, that was us being gentle." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Everything the humans had done, the precise strikes, the targeted attacks, the careful dismantling of the Council's power, had been them showing restraint. One by one, the Council members surrendered, not to superior firepower, but to the weight of their own exposed crimes. As Earth's forces secured the capital, Walker received reports from across the galaxy. Former slave species were rising up. Oppressed worlds were declaring independence. And through it all, human ships and technology helped maintain order, preventing chaos while ensuring justice. The sleeping giant had not just awakened. It had risen to become something the Council never expected. A force for justice in a galaxy that had forgotten what justice meant. 1 year after the Council's fall, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The towering crystal spires of the Council capital now house the headquarters of the new Galactic Federation, its halls filled with representatives from every spacefaring species. Admiral Walker stood at the main podium, addressing the gathered delegates. The chamber, once a place of fear and oppression, now buzzed with hope and possibility. 1 year ago, he began. Humanity faced a choice. We could have used our strength to become the new Council, to rule through fear as they did. Instead, we chose a different path. The screens behind him showed images from across the galaxy. Former Council worlds transformed into centers of free trade. Extinct species, hidden away by the Council, returning to their restored homeworlds. Former enemies working together to rebuild what the Council had destroyed. Commander Stone, now Director of Galactic Security, stepped forward with her report. The last of the Council's secret facilities has been found and dismantled. Their hidden weapons have been destroyed. Their stolen wealth has been returned to the worlds they took it from. In orbit above them, Earth's black ships patrolled alongside vessels from dozens of other species, but they no longer inspired fear. Instead, they had become symbols of protection, their crews teaching other races how to defend themselves. Dr. Reed presented the latest technological developments. As promised, we've shared our advancements with all member worlds. Our AI systems are helping to rebuild damaged ecosystems. Our quantum technology is connecting distant worlds. The Council hoarded knowledge. We choose to share it. The former High Speaker Taurus and his inner circle faced justice in trials broadcast across the galaxy. But even here, humanity showed its true strength. The trials were fair, the evidence clear, the punishments just. The Council leaders learned that true power came not from cruelty, but from justice. The Council thought they could harvest us. Walker continued. They saw our divisions, our conflicts, our apparent weakness. They never understood that these challenges had made us stronger. They never realized that humans don't just survive. We learn, we adapt, we grow. The new Galactic Federation operated on principles the Council had never imagined. Every species had a voice. Every world had rights. Power was balanced, checked, and monitored. The systems humanity had developed to prevent their own wars now helped maintain peace across the stars. Former slave species, freed from Council control, discovered something surprising about their human liberators. Earth didn't want servants or subjects. They wanted allies, partners, friends. Human technology and knowledge spread across the galaxy, not as tools of control, but as gifts freely given. Today, Walker announced, we welcome 5 more worlds to the Federation. Former Council worlds, choosing to join us not through force or fear, but through trust and hope. Commander Stone added, our deep space sensors, once used to watch for Council threats, now scan for new civilizations to welcome into our community. The Council's policy was to harvest primitive species. Our policy is to protect and guide them. The chamber erupted in applause as representatives from the new member worlds took their seats. Among them were species that had once fought bitter wars under Council rule. Now they worked together, rebuilding their worlds and their futures. Dr. Reed's final report showed the galaxy transforming. Trade routes once controlled by Council monopolies now flowed freely. Technologies once hoarded in secret vaults now improved lives across thousands of worlds. The Council's dark age of oppression had given way to a new era of cooperation and growth. This, Walker concluded, is humanity's true revenge. Not destruction, but creation. Not domination, but liberation. The Council thought they could break us. Instead, we broke their power and built something better from its ruins. As the session ended, the delegates looked out at their changed galaxy. The Council's 1,000-year reign of terror had ended not with an apocalyptic war, but with the birth of something new. Humanity had shown that true strength came not from causing fear, but from bringing hope. The sleeping giant had not just awakened. It had risen to become exactly what the galaxy needed. Not a conqueror, but a guardian. Not a tyrant, but a teacher. Not an ending, but a new beginning.